Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a tier list for the patch 7.29D for position 5, and as I said in the other videos, it looks like we're not going to be getting another patch until after the TI qualifier, so this one should be relevant for about another month or a few weeks at least, so I just thought I'd make all of the videos here for you for each position. And as usual, this is a combination of professional meta as well as pub meta. I'm kind of going to try to mash those two together and even them out, because what happens in pubs isn't always the same as what happens in pros, and so the pros can maybe have a lot more reasons why they're picking all these weird things, but it doesn't really apply if those same heroes, those same, enemy heroes aren't being picked. The same meta doesn't apply, so it can change a little bit. So I just take that into consideration when I make these tier lists. But if you disagree with something, as always, you can, leave your comment below and let me know, because every time I look at one of these lists, I change something, like put a hero up or put a hero down, those kinds of things. And then lastly, before we jump into it, I'm just going to say that for the 5 position, the main difference between the 5 and the 4 position these days is just whether or not this hero that we're going to look at can do the same thing that it always does without farm. Because 4 position, you just get a little more farm. So some of these heroes, like Lion, it's a hero that can play 4 or 5 because it does do some extra things, or like if you get a Blink Dagger or Ags or whatever, with farm, it does some extra stuff and it can be more impactful. But it also has such a good kit that as a 5 position, it can just do almost the same thing or just enough, or be very impactful as a 5 with almost no farm. So that's the main consideration between these heroes and the heroes that are in the 4 position list. And that's honestly the biggest thing to understand between 5 position and 4 position these days. But without further ado, let's just get into the S tier list here. And first we have Ancient Apparition. This hero is really, really good because of his ultimate, because a lot of heroes are buying Scotty, Satanic, S and Y, more HP items and those kinds of things. And because of that, his ult just cuts through those tanky heroes, stops regen, is able to just burst down heroes. When you get hit with this ult, it's very rare that you can be a hero that gets hit with this ult and feels like you can stand in place and still tank a lot of damage or take a lot of damage from the enemy, because his ult is just so good right now against the heroes that are popular. But the other underlooked or undervalued thing about this hero is actually the Ags shard, in that the Ice Vortex causes DPS. So usually what it does is it just gives, vision, and you put it on the ground, and then it does, you take extra magic damage. But now you can control an area because you put this Ice Vortex on the ground, and now it does damage and it blocks Blink Daggers. And that's really, really important, because if you put stuff in the trees, or you kind of preemptively put Ice Vortexes on the ground, it stops the initiation of the enemy team from far away, because the cast range on this is pretty far. It also lasts for a good amount of time, like 16 seconds it says there. So and it also slows, so it can just be a very, very big disruption in team fights if you're using it correctly. And so that's one of those things that people, I don't think, maybe they know about it, but they don't see as being as big of an impact as it actually is in team fights if you know what you're doing. Like if you place it on, let's say you're having a fight at one of the triangles, if you place like 2 or 3 of those down on the ramps or at certain spots, it can be really, really hard for the enemy team to play into that, because they're taking damage, they're slowed, they can't blink, they take extra magic damage and those kinds of things. And the cooldown is 4 seconds, so you can put like a ton of those down before the team fight and during the team fight. It can just be a really, really good ability, especially with that Ags shard. So that is Ancient Apparition and why he's so good. Next we have Winter Wyvern. And Winter Wyvern is good just because it has like so many good things about the kit, in terms of it does percentage based damage on its Arctic burn here, and it also is really, really good at like disrupting team fights and those kinds of things. People initiate, it counter initiates, it like deletes a hero if you have a really high damage hero like Terrorblade or something. You curse somebody that's next to the Terrorblade because Terrorblade's popular, and the Terrorblade just shreds that enemy hero. And then honestly, one of the biggest things is Cold Embrace here. So because of Spectre and because of some of these other heroes that are really popular, that like these huge hard carries that get really, really big and do a ton of damage, and you're relying on like Spectre, like Terrorblade, these kinds of things. Well, this Cold Embrace right now is so good, especially if you even buy like, what is that? The stick, the upgrades of the stick. I honestly forget. What is that stupid item called? Let's just look at that here. Why am I forgetting? I'm blanking on it because no one ever buys it. It hasn't been. Oh, Holy Locket. Yeah. Especially if you buy Holy Locket, this hero can just be insane. Like, you have a Spectre, let's say. You take all that damage, you do all that dispersion, and you're at like 20 HP, 20% HP. This hero just casts freaking Cold Embrace on you, and you just regen up to full. Like, I've seen it happen before. I'm like, that's extremely OP. You know, the Spectre's taking damage, you're trying to kill the Spectre, Cold Embrace goes on the Spectre, and now the Spectre's back to full. Like, you're screwed. Like, it's practically like an Aegis for your Spectre and stuff like that. So that's why Winter Wyvern can be so good. That Cold Embrace is just so OP. Percentage-based damage, and then this team fight ultimate that just disrupts team fights is a great counter initiation. So that's Winter Wyvern. Then we have Enchantress here. Enchantress is just really good because if you play her correctly in the 5 position, you don't even need items. You can just run in if the enemy doesn't have much magic damage, and they cannot kill you. Like, especially with Holy Locket, this Nature's Attendance is so overpowered that, and then you get, like, you can even get the Ag Shard and do more healing in general. You can dish out pure damage, and then the enemy cannot kill you without magic damage, pretty much, it feels like. If you play this hero correctly, it can feel unkillable. It can feel like another core from the 5 position without any items. So it just seems insane right now if you know how to play it and you pick it into the right lineup. And then we have Lion. I talked about this in the 4 position guide. He just has a really good kit right now with the stuns, with his Ag's Shard that causes you to mana drain 3 heroes while also being magic immune, basically having BKB. It just makes that ability so much better where you can just stand in fights now and feel like, oh, fine, come at me, because you're going to waste all of this time and energy to try to kill me in this BKB duration, and while I'm, mana draining you, and you're kind of screwed. And then also he does insane damage with Finger of Death. So he doesn't even need really any items, and he's still able to do a lot with his kit here. Then we have Phoenix. Just like in the 4 position list, this hero just seems insane. Like, you don't really need items, just levels here, and you can get off your Supernova. You do insane percentage-based damage. All of these things just make this hero, you can carry from the 5 position without items even. It's just ridiculous right now if you know how to play it. And so like I said, I talked about that in the 4 position, but just the innate kit with this hero is so good right now. And then Snapfire, similarly, the kit is just so good with the stun, with the slow, with the crazy Mortimer's Kisses. You don't even need farm on this hero, and it can just feel crazy in the laning stage, and later on it just feels so good right now. And it's been getting nerfed over and over, but it's still really good. And just like I said, you can get an Ags or something if you're a 4 position, but as a 5 you don't even need that, and you can still have crazy impact with this hero. And so that is the S tier supports. And next we'll move down to our A tier. We have Grimstroke. I think Grimstroke could even be S tier, just depends. If you don't have a lot of single target cores like Doom or something like that, then Grimstroke doesn't feel as good, but it can still feel really good against like PL and other things, heroes like that have a lot of illusions like Terrorblade and that kind of stuff. So it can feel really good right now because of the good matchups that it has, and also the good pairings that it has, and just a pretty good hero overall. Elder Titan then, as a really good 5 position, can do a ton of damage. His passive can just be really good against the right heroes, especially like strength carries and other things like that, or just carries that have innate armor from their, like Terrorblade from their agility and stuff like that. He can feel really good. So and without items, he doesn't really need items. He just does what he does without items, really, honestly. But if you put items on him, he can do like kind of a whole different thing with getting his BKB and stuff like that, or his free BKB from his abilities. But without items, he can almost do the same thing and still feel like he has a lot of impact in the game. And then Shadow Shaman, a 5 position that, is just innately good with the stuns, with his push abilities. Can get Blink Dagger and other things like that. Could be good with farm, but doesn't necessarily need it. Similar to Lion, like I always say. They're similar just in the sense that Lion is good at bursting, but Shadow Shaman is good at pushing, but they're very similar in that way. It's just that Lion is a little better now with his Ag Shard. So that's my A tier. Next we have B tier. And these heroes are good in the sense that I think they're good. A lot of these heroes are good if you are good with them and you have a good team with them. So Io can be picked up by like really good players in really good teams, but is not really a hero that you want to play if you're not a high level player, if you're on a team and you're having a lot of coordination, because sometimes it can just feel really underwhelming. Kind of the same thing with Oracle, because they both heal. They're both sustaining heroes. Oracle's one of those that can feel really good if you know how to play it, if you have a carry that you want to pop your ults on and stuff like that. But if you don't know how to play Oracle, it just does not work for you. And that's even like Shadow Demon here, a little bit like that. But Shadow Demon can be really good. Like I said, even in the 4 position against illusion heroes, is just a good hero with his purges and stuff like that. But if you don't know how to play him, it can be kind of hard. So those 3 heroes are very similar in that way. And then you have Abaddon, you have Treant Protector. They're pretty good just because their overall kit is good. You have that save for Abaddon. They're really hard to kill. They're really hard to catch, and they have generally good team fight, good save, and those kinds of things, but they're not like the best heroes right now. I think they're just pretty good. In fact, they could even be moved down or down here, maybe, depending. But then we have C tier, which these I think are just your general good 5 positions. I think you can pick these heroes in any game in a pub, and you'll do fine. I just don't think that is really a big deal. Like CM, Witch Doctor, Warlock, Jakir. Like if you know Ogre, if you know how to play any of these heroes, they are fine to pick in pubs. They're your standard heroes. They're very good right now. None of them is overpowered like crazy. They're being picked in pubs a lot. No, none of them are OP, I would say, but they're all really good, and they can have their place, and if you play them well, they can seem pretty good. Kind of unlike the B tier, B tier is more of like you sort of have to specialize. You have to know what you're doing with Abaddon. You have to know how to play Tree. Otherwise, these guys can feel underwhelming, but they just have like a higher ceiling than these general basic heroes in C tier. And then D tier, it's sort of a similar situation to C tier, except D tier, it just feels like these heroes are generally worse overall than the C tier heroes in the sense that like they just don't do as much. Like, Lich is just not as good. Keeper of the Light, not as good. Bane, Chen, Undying, Silencer, just not as good. Maybe Undying could go up. I could even put Undying up here. Maybe Undying, honestly, might even be B tier, because Undying is one of those heroes, again, that, like, if you play him correctly, he can be good, but if you don't play him correctly, he feels, like, terrible. I might honestly put him, like, up here. Or maybe even down to C tier. Undying's a really weird hero. Like I said, he used to be really good, but now he's not as good. But yeah, these D tier heroes are just kind of basic supports. Obviously, Chen, if you don't know how to play him, like he's terrible, and right now pros aren't picking him, which are the only people that really know how to play him. And so if they're not picking him, he must be bad. Same thing with all these guys. He's just not that great of supports. Not supports that you're going to pick and feel like they have impact every game. And then F tier, this is Enigma, and I just put Enigma there as an F tier because I needed an F tier, and also, like, don't pick Enigma 5. It's bad. I've seen some people pick it and be like, this is so good. I'm like, no, it's not. I feel like they just don't have impact. They don't know what they're doing. Like, they're not going to have much impact in the lane, and then you're not going to get items to get that blink or those, black holes that you need. So it's just not going to work. Stop picking this hero's 5 position. I haven't really seen it too much recently, but there's been occasions when I've seen it and it just doesn't work. So people should just not pick this as 5 position. Also, I mean, we could just edit this real quick and put Pudge in here. Just stop picking Pudge 5. Never pick Pudge 5. If you pick Pudge 5, honestly, it's like just... It's not, but it's practically, it's the closest thing, besides maybe even Techie's 5, which I don't really see much. It's the closest thing to, like, saying you're allowed to grief. Like, if your carry or mid or other heroes, other players in the team grief the game because you picked Pudge 5, it's almost, like, warranted. It's, like, not even a big deal. I'm kind of joking with that, but Pudge 5 is just so bad. Like, if you're going to pick Pudge at any position, pick him at, like, 4 or 3 or something, even mid. Do not pick him as 5 because it's just so bad. But, yeah, that is my 5 position tier list. If you have anything that you disagree with here, you want to comment about, just let me know in the comments. As always, if you like the video, just like it, subscribe, comment, those kinds of things always helps. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.